Hi there, my name is Noemi. I'm going to be teaching an animal communication workshop in an upcoming event at Emerson College in the southeast of England in the UK. But you can find all the details about the course at the end of this video. Animal communication is not new. It's been a part of indigenous cultures for an incredibly long time. Modern culture is encouraging an almost complete disconnection from nature, and so this is a skill that our culture has disregarded as make-believe. There is a growing awareness around reconnecting with nature, but all too often this focuses on what we can take from nature rather than the messages we can receive if we can learn how to listen again. Because nature is communicating with us constantly, and just because we are not listening does not mean it's not happening. This is the basis of animal communication, learning to quieten the mind through meditation so that we can become more able to hear what animals are trying to tell us. Because animals want to share all sorts of things with us. They want to share joy, playfulness, insights, love, wisdom. Animals have a lot of stories to tell, and of course, the basis of storytelling is our ability to listen, which is why Ashley RAMSDEN, co-founder of the International School of Storytelling, will also be teaching this workshop, so that we can learn to listen to animals and tell their stories so that people will listen. So how did animal stories impacted your work and yourself on a personal level, as a storyteller and as yourself?
Well, the thing that the animals bring, or brought to me, I think, was a sense of play. The pure joy of an animal, the exuberance of an animal, and the way that I saw that my children enjoyed animals as well. I grew up around animals as well, dogs, and especially dogs. And so I found that when I would tell stories that had animals inside them, where animals lent themselves to be the guides and teachers, they were very powerful. And I suppose, like a child who asks for the same story again and again and again, I've also told the same stories again and again and again, because I know that I'm not only telling them to other people, but also I'm telling them to myself. So it's kind of my own medicine, in that way.
And do you find that in animal stories, animals bring specific animals bring specific energies?
Yes.
In terms of imagery, for instance, badger being more aggressive, getting on with it, was, for instance,
mouse, different.
Fox being cunning, and they often have this traits which are often, you find them in stories, but you also find them when you start to work with animal guides and animal medicines, and you start to do all that work. You also find that actually the energy and the meaning of the animals that come to you as guides or as totem animals, often their personalities and the energy that they're carrying is very similar to the stories. There's often similar traits to them, which I find very interesting. If you work with like Native American Indian medicine animals, or with totem animals or animal spirit guides, the animal will come to you carry the same traits often than in the stories.
Yes, I think that's what's been passed down. So it's not always anthropomorphic, not always something that's laid on the animal. Sometimes I think it is actually, it comes out of a true listening. That place, I think so. And you mentioned the Native American medicine wheel tradition. So each animal holds a particular wisdom, a particular perspective. So the mouse is very different from the eagle, very different from the wolf, very different from the buffalo. So these great stories that contain, they're like different lenses on the world, aren't they? Each animal sees something slightly different.
Or from the sky, or from the ground, or from the also different perspective in terms of the habitat and how they live. Yeah.
Now, one of my favourite stories is a story about a very wise teacher who had many students, and they used to come to him and meditate, and he would be able to tell them about their next incarnation and where they were in their spiritual development. And one day, in deepest meditation, this teacher discovered, to his horror, that in his next life he would be reincarnated as a pig. And he was really shocked because he thought that he was highly developed, and to become a pig was surely to go down in the ladder of evolution. So he called his wisest student to him, and he confided in this student, and he said, after I die, I will be reborn in a farm, in a litter of pigs close by, and I will have a particular mark on my ear. As soon as I'm born, go to the farmer and...
Buy me.
No, actually, he didn't say buy me. He said, slit my throat.
Gosh, okay.
And end my life, so that I can continue in my cycle of
Okay.
incarnations in the highest possible way, as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And the student kept this advice to himself, realized it was a great honor, a great privilege that his master had entrusted this to him. And after he died, he would go by the local farm, he would look in on the pigsty, and he would look at the sows, and sure enough, after a while, a litter of pigs were born, and there was one that had a mark on the ear. So he went to the farmer, he came to an arrangement, and followed by a train of other disciples, they proceeded to the pigsty to perform the necessary request. And the student drew himself up to his full height and took out the knife to slit the throat of the little piglet. And then suddenly, in that moment, the piglet spoke, "Please, don't kill me. I had no idea what it was like to be a pig. The feel of the mud between my trotters, the sweet milk that comes from my mother's dugs from her teats, and the delight I have with my fellow brothers and sisters is something that I could never possibly pass up. Let me continue in my life as a pig so that I can learn everything that I have to learn."
No, you've said it.
The disciple dropped the knife, went to the farmer, and then bought the pig, took it back to the monastery, and continued to treat the master very respectfully until he finished his life. I think it's such a beautiful story. You know, if we were to look at animals like this, that perhaps, who knows, who is it who's in front of us? You know. And I think that's your work, about listening in this way to the animal stories. And what I've found in working with you is that their stories are actually our stories. Their sufferings are our sufferings. It's exactly the same stories of abandonment and abuse and the longing for the sweet things of life.
That's true. But what I'm also hoping is to get people out of their brains, out of their thinking, their reacting, having to think, having to have an opinions, having to react to whatever is happening, and just feel and be more heart focused and feel from their heart and be able to experience and feel and stay in that state when you don't have to formulate thought, opinions or feedback. You can just being in that set of receiving and listening and see what's being said and how it can transform you in the heart area. So that's what I personally feel is important. So I feel like a lot of spiritual work sometimes can be very wordy and very brainy, and a lot of it is always about concepts and about this school of thought or that school of thought or that concept. How do you apply that concept? And I just find that sometimes it's already inside, and it's all about breathing, being, feeling, being here, and then listening. And when you listen from your heart to the animals, to nature around you, great messages of wisdom are just transmitted to you naturally. You don't really need to go to great length to study and swallow and digest all this concept. It's already there, it's already around you, it's already in the trees, in the rocks, in the animals, in the wind. It's just a matter of listening. And to me that's really what's important. And I just realised that I was talking, there is a mink over there, completely white, and I've never seen one before. Can you see it?
Yes.
As I was talking, I saw that
a squirrel,
mink.
you mean?
It's all white.
Yeah.
How can squirrel be white?
Yeah, well, this is a very... It's a visitation.
I've never seen a completely white squirrel.
Yes.
I thought only mink were white like that.
No, this is it's appeared this year here, and as a sort of, I don't know, as a messenger.
I've never seen a completely white squirrel. I saw that thing crawling on the tree, and is that a mink? I was thinking, what is it?
Yes. They did a register of the birds around here, and I forget the number that they came up with, but it was quite extraordinary, the number of birds that gather around this place that seem to get something from it.
Yeah, I think it's the peacefulness and the fact it's not interrupted by humans' ideas.
Yeah. That's what I liked about your work as well, as to how you could help us into a meditative space, into this calmer space, and then afterwards we could look at it and sort it out. But this kind of discipline of being able to actually drop down into that place, and how it's possible to be guided there and to rest there, and then to be able to look at it because you know the dogs that you're talking about, you know if what we're hearing is true or not, if what we've written down as an intuition is actually fantasy. And what was remarkable actually was how it must have been a good 80-85% of people in the room were in tune when they started to trust their intuitions.
So now they start to trust. If you really tell people, don't worry whether it's right or wrong, just go with it. Whatever come up to your mind, just write it down, go with it, and then we'll talk. But for now, just go with it, don't worry. It's just, and you could even explain it as a creative writing or a creativity exercise, just go with what's happening. And after, when we verify with the dog owner or with the farmer or with the person who knows the animal, who is the closest to the animal, what you saw and what the image you received or the word you've heard, or so depending on the person, it comes in images, words or sounds or feelings even. It's often accurate as long as people drop the self-doubt, self-sabotaging thing. As long as they drop that, then they all, as you said, 85% accurate. And it's just a case of practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. And the more you practice, the more you're accurate, because the more you manage to stop the monkey chatter in your mind. And when you can stop it's not about stopping, it's about giving your mind something to do and keeping it busy so you can focus on the heart and the experience. So you say to your mind, okay, great monkey, you're chatting away. Pause. So if you can pause it or get it to count the breath, do something, give the mind something to do, so it's not disturbing you while you're doing that. It's a monkey, again, an animal, a monkey. The image, the visual of the animal, again, the monkey going from thought to thought, from thought to thought.
I remember someone once giving a picture of the conscious and the unconscious mind, and the conscious mind being like an island, but all around it, the ocean, much bigger and teeming with life. And it's a bit like that. I sometimes feel I'm holding on to my little island of existence, but actually what's swirling around me all the time is the unconscious, which we enter into at night in the world of dream, which refreshes us all the time, but which we forget during the day. So as soon as I start to tell a story, into the room comes the ocean, into the room comes the unconscious, and I slowly have to let go and find out how to swim in that ocean. And that's really what storytelling is about, swimming with those creatures and being in a much more fluid, flexible place where something enormous is moving through me like waves. And I think the great teachers knew this.
And do you find it's more relevant right now for the type of society, the type of busy life people have now these days, being always pulled in many directions, with having so many opinions being thrown at them, and people don't really necessarily have the time to be on their own with their own thoughts. They tend to read and take on board other people's thoughts a lot and be affected by it with all the online world. So do you find that that type of work is now very, very much so relevant?
It's very relevant because at last people through this work get in touch with their creativity, with the source of creativity that's in me, that's in each of us. And this dependence on social media things and the busyness of life you're talking about is exhausting. But dip into this, it's refreshing, it's delightful, and
Playful.
playful. So I find that I use play a lot in my teaching or in how I work, because it releases people into that place that we had when we were small, but has become covered over so quickly. And there's a great sadness in that covering, and a longing to just be in there and play again. Just come and join us.